Nominees, where we're given to understand that Parliament's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has given a clean bill of health to all 7 nominees to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And it says that it's confident in the integrity despite tough questions raised during the vetting over the weekend. So we want just to drill deeper on this with our panelists already, just to get an inkling of where we are headed right now. I had introduced my panelists before we took a short break, but I just want to hear their voices as well. We are joined this evening by Senior Counsel Okongo Mogeni, who is the Senator of Nyamira. Also, we have with us Bernard Kituru, who is a Member of Parliament. And Nandi Hills, also we're joined by Shakil Shabir, who is a Member of Parliament for Kisumu East. And right away from Bunge, we have Dr. Nyikal, who has been in the committee meeting. He's on his way. He will be joining us momentarily as we continue with the conversation at pace. But let me just hear their voices as well, just to set the tone of conversation just briefly on IEBC. Let's begin with you, Shakil Shabir, on this IEBC recruitment process. Last week is when we had this particular direction from the courts that they should continue full steam ahead with the process, or is it the other way around actually? We have Parliament which is continuing with the vetting despite the fact that we have a court a process that has not given the thumbs up, or you can give us the clarity on it as well.
IEBC, I was in the Constitution Review Committee.
Yes.
When we talked about some of these issues, IEBC, other things. The IEBC here, we have blown it out of proportion. It's become such, it's become the monster that decides who is going to be, what's the word, announced as the winner. When you look at IEBC, go to India, there are less than 6 members or 7 members of IEBC. And their role is very clear. There's no political political interference.
Yes.
The political parties are not involved in what IEBC, who is going to elect the members of IEBC. It is it's based on meritocracy, based upon a system, institutions that have built over time. With us, unfortunately, IEBC and what was before has become sort of a star show, especially round about the elections. So they come in, the chairman of IEBC is being given unfettered powers, members of IEBC are brought in by political parties. So the whole thing is now a political charade. And that's what I see. I'm wondering other countries whether their IEBC, their equivalent, they don't have these problems. They don't have these issues of vetting or whatever they do. I'm not sure how it's done, but they are not. It's the dragon that they have not let out of the. We have made this a dragon. We've made it, and it's eating us up. So personally, whoever is IEBC, from the ruling party, from the opposition party, this, that, I don't see the difference. And I don't see how it's going to make any difference whatsoever. Whether the court says this was done, Bunge goes in this way, you have made this into what is it, debug? I don't know what you call it, but it's become too famous, made it too important, where the job is very clear. Go, this is where the election takes place, you've got the rules, you've got everything else, do your job, end of the story. Now the IEBC chair is going to be going around like the king of what? The king of elections. And I personally, I don't know. Make anybody the chair. They will face the consequences. Every chair except one has faced very serious consequences. So I don't really know what to say.
Okay.
When the Parliament, we were vetting it in Parliament, I heard yesterday that somebody spoke very good Swahili. I remember meeting him the other day. So-and-so is the brother-in-law of so-and-so. Yeah. I mean, what was the JLAC doing? Do you understand me? We're vetting. Vetting what? Asking questions. Our vetting has become a, you're meant to vet. You're not meant to, what they did in vetting is just a show.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let me just cross over to you, Senior Counsel Kongo Omogeni, on this as well, because they say that, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And we can take a good example from Gambia. Maybe we should go also the marble way, where we have, exactitude when they're using marbles. But how should IEBC commissioners also now prepare to, take office under this cloud of legal scrutiny that is hanging over them?
Yeah, Dibal, first, nice to see you.
It's good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. So we're happy to see you, this new family of TV47.
Asante sana.
Should have told Kenyans you brought us all the way to Kiambu.
We're in Kiambu County.
We're in Kiambu town, joining you from Kiambu County. So nice to see you. It's been a while. So I'm really happy.
Thank you.
So, this is my maiden appearance on this show this evening. So it's a pleasure, really. Now, Dibal, the issue of IEBC is very, very sensitive, extremely sensitive. You remember after the internal dispute that we had in 2007, we brought some well-respected international personalities to come and look at our electoral system, justice system, and really diagnose what is this problem that in every electoral circle the country goes to the brink of war. And remember, Craig told us that you must build confidence in your electoral system.
System, it did.
You must have those who are managing the electoral process must be men and women of integrity who command respect across the board. People who, when they stand up to announce a winner, nobody raises a finger. Everybody has confidence in the process and the end result. So I always say that when we are picking our commissioners, the first guiding principle should be that that process should build confidence in Kenyans, that the people will get the task of managing our elections are men and women who are beyond reproach. So if you get a process where some doubt is created, you already send signals to Kenyans that maybe people you are sending to manage the process may not manage it in a free and fair manner. But I don't want to cast aspersions. Let me give benefit of doubt to my brothers from National Assembly and hope that they were thorough in the job. But what many Kenyans are getting, the Constitution gives members of Parliament power and authority, just like our judiciary. But hardly would you see as parliamentarians going through a vetting process and return a verdict that says this one return to sender. It's become like it's a process where we tick the boxes. Okay? Anything that is sent to us, it's like a clearing and forwarding process. I think we need to do better than that and borrow from other jurisdictions. I mean, you go to Congress in the US, you'll find that there are many people who, in fact, even judges selected to join the Supreme Court are denied that privilege of joining the judiciary on account of an article somebody wrote in the newspaper. They just say, we have looked at your inclination, you don't respect human rights. I don't think you're suitable for that position. But I don't think we are that thorough. I don't think there is anybody who spends a sleepless night before going to Parliament, as long as they know, he or she knows that I have the backing of the executive. Two, I also hope that those who are tasked with the task of appointing the commissioners, will not send signals that we want to, create a culture where we defy court orders. Kregler told us that if we remove the confidence of Kenyans from the judicial process, you are setting yourselves up for war. Anybody of us, including our current president, is in office because the court declared him to be a winner. Mm-hmm. And the Kenyans respected that court decision and said, now that the court has pronounced itself, President William Ruto will be the president of this country. So we must, as leaders, we must always warn ourselves that we must, all of us, are subject to the authority of our courts. Mm-hmm. That's the only way you will, make Kenyans have that comfort that if the political class gets it wrong or if we are wronged somewhere, we can always go to court and get a remedy. And that our courts are independent enough to give a decision that can be respected by the executive or by the other arm of government, which is parliament. So from where I sit, we must be very, very cautious, mm-hmm. not to disregard court orders. That will be a recipe for chaos. Because if you disrespect a court order today, your neighbor, your friend, will do the same tomorrow. And they will say, if the political class did it.
I think you should be saying that while facing Bernard here. Yeah.
I'm talking,
because that falls smack dab in the middle of
I'm talking to Kenyans. Parliament. I may not persuade them, but at least Kenyans will listen to us. Yeah, so I think that really is what should guide all of us. I mean, I'm sure Honorable Kitur here, my friend, or Honorable Shabir, does not want to contemplate a situation where you go to court, you have a dispute, you go to court, you get a court order, and then an authority somewhere, may it be executive, maybe anybody in the parliament, tells you this is a piece of paper, I will not listen to it, I will not pay any attention. I mean, put yourself in that shoe. How will you feel? Because anybody approaching our courts, mm-hmm. first of all, they have the comfort that the judiciary is independent, it's impartial, it's not partisan. So they say, if I present my case there, if the court is convinced, it will give me an order. If the court is not persuaded, they will dismiss my case. And often, Kenyans who go to court and have their cases dismissed will abide by that decision. Why then should we not abide by a favorable decision that is given to Kenyans, to a Kenyan citizen? We are sending wrong signal. And let me tell you, Debar, we may not listen, people may not listen to us today, mm-hmm. but tomorrow they will remember that we say these things on air. It is critical. It is in any civilized democracy, mm-hmm. you must respect court orders. You will always hear people talking about rule of law. What is rule of law? Rule of law means that you subject yourself to the due process of our courts. A limited constitution, when you are told that Kenya has a limited constitution, it means that even when you have power to do something, either as parliament or as executive, that power can be limited by a decision given by our courts.
Thank you.
That's what we mean by a country that has a limited constitution. A constitution that has limited powers on executive tells you that there is much that you can do and there is much that is subject to another authority.
Thank you.
Doing a judicial review of you. Finally, mm-hmm. I heard my friend say that IEBC was brought by political parties. I don't know whether I got him right or not, wrong. You know, what we actually tried to do, I sat in the NADCO, team, and what we tried to do is to create a selection panel that has representation from both the majority side, which by extension represents the executive, and the minority side, which is represented by the opposition, and then blend it with the people from civil society, professional bodies like ISPAC, LSK, okay? And gave that panel the right to pick candidates who are impartial, men and women of integrity. the 7 commissioners should not have that cloud of representing a political grouping. They are supposed to serve Kenyans. Okay? The only connection is the selection panel had 2 people picked by the majority side and then minority side. I hope you're not telling Kenyans that these 7 were pushed through by some political wing,
but
either
you know
the
the
majority or minority. Because if that's what we are pushing,
Let's listen in from Bernard as well,
If
so
that's what we
that
are
we get a
pushing,
clear picture. Because I think also prior to that particular direction from the courts, that they should have allowed voting to continue with condition. Was that is what the position of the court was. The question is, I had the National Assembly Speaker saying, JLAC should have a tete-a-tete to discuss this particular issue. So this was actually premeditated before even this direction was given by the courts. But pointedly, what I wanted to ask you is, how can now Parliament and Judiciary collaborate in future so that we don't have such a scenario where we have outright, disregard of what the court ruling is saying?
Thank you, Dibal, and good evening, everyone watching us tonight. It's my first time to also attend your show, my first debut.
Thank you so much.
My contribution on this is, when I look at it, Article 88, I think of the Constitution, outlines everything about, sets out the foundations of the IEBC. And during the NADCO report, which of course set out the team that was going to select the commissioners. And Kenyans were asked to apply from across, the board. But of course, there were parameters that had been set in place to make sure it is representative, it has all the technical expertise that would be required to be able to carry a credible, whether it's the limitation of boundaries, whether it is the elections, people of great impeccable character. And so to say, about 340 fantastic Kenyans applied for those positions. Of course, there's the entire period of assessment until they came up with the list of the 7 or so who have been forwarded to Parliament for further, for Parliament to be able to also assess them. Of course, when it went to JLAC, when the real business in Parliament, by the way, Dibal, happens in committees, that is where you get the entire report, analyzed report of what others have, of the analysis that have happened before. And we have a team also in Parliament of experts. We have people from the HR, we have, lawyers who now go and debunk areas of weaknesses that we think we need to look into. And as far as my senior was talking about and said, sometimes we don't give a lot of attention, I want to say that we depend on also a lot of analysis that is done behind. And based on the same, when the team, the committee, now have been able to go through all of them, and they do a report, that is another summarized version that is also brought in to us to be able now to use that to debate and look at the areas of weaknesses and of course the strengths of these individuals. And many times, by the sheer fact that you've gone through the entire of that process, you are getting the finest of the finest. By the time it gets here, unless there are considerable reasons as to why we should not be able to give you that opportunity as Parliament, and to say, the least, Dibal, there are even cases of cabinet secretaries who have been interviewed, you've come through the entire process, but in Parliament you are able to reject. It has happened as such. So it would not be right to maybe what my colleagues here are saying, that sometimes it comes to Parliament, we're just able to pass. No, that has not been the case. So in this particular one, when you look at all the representations, I think the selection panel did a fantastic job. And these people who have been able to be selected might be able to take this country forward. Now, finally, I wanted to also mention that even IEBC itself, we are talking about commissioners who will be in the forefront, giving the directions and the policies. But behind it is a secretariat, a complete house, of experts also behind. So the people that we are selecting, because of the sensitivity that it happens, Kenya is so political. We are so political. Even when you are selecting the selection panel itself was a big problem. People went to court, and we are able to deny Kenyans also because there are many Kenyans who don't have representations in the various units, whether they are MCAs, whether they are in Parliament, whether in Senate. There are many constituencies that don't have that right. They are not enjoying the right of representations in the various categories. So when people went to court with, it got to a point where it had to get into a level of negotiation. So bringing it home, I would like to say that I think the team that have been selected, in my view, were pretty competitive. I went through all their credentials, and I think they are Kenyans worth to be able to run IEBC. I wanted to also mention something that I think the speaker raised, because you see, when a report is submitted to Parliament, we also have our standing orders that you also have to follow, days that have been set out. So sometimes when a court ruling again is issued, conflicting with the processes in Parliament, interfering with the process of what we've been able to set out, now there comes an issue where we are talking about that aspect of mediation. But so to say, for me, I'm glad that we have now a team that I'm sure will be able to deliver a credible elections in 2020.
But when we talk about procedural impropriety, as we've seen, we had the interviews, the ongoing, then along the way you have the 5 who are somewhat sneaked in, so to speak, because the selection panel providentially forgot, the list of all these names. And this is why we have this particular case in court. The question is, how could that actually just be let to slip through? Because I think there is always a robust way of picking and shortlisting. There's no way, unless we have other clammy fingers and other forces behind who are trying to sneak in the names as well. Because this has been the speculation in the public that we need clarity. Where did these names just suddenly appear from nowhere, out of the blue, from the left?
All of us as Kenyans right now, Dibao, want things to be done straight. If, all of us want, if there's been set out, nobody...
Exactly, and exactly. The question is, when we see such processes and impropriety along the way, then this really engenders the mistrust that has been clouding IEBC all along.
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes there's also the aspect, we are saying it's rumors, right? So we need to get the validity of those things. Were they really rumors? Were they facts? And those kinds of things. But nonetheless, what I want to say is, based on those that we were able to be submitted, of those people who, their credentials, they were above board. But I want to say that I would also be very interested to know if those kinds of things, as you mentioned, it's rumors. We all know it is rumors. So unless those rumors, and sometimes rumors can sometimes be spoken about till it becomes some form of a truth, which is not. So in this particular case, of course, I'll still be keen to hear on the same, but on those that were brought on our table, I think there are people that have above board to be able to run the elections of this country.
Okay. You think it was rumors? Briefly, as we take a short break, Shakil? It was rumors.
As much as you say that this is not a political process, factual, that out of those who have been appointed, they have certain biased already. They have a choice. Some are biased towards the ruling party. Some have a bias towards the opposition party and NADCO. So, as you said, you use the term simplicity is the ultimate. What is the word you use? Simplicity?
The ultimate sophistication?
Exactly. Why? Why are we not there? Why is simplicity? Simplicity.
Yeah, you're getting a phone call already.
Yeah. So why simplicity? No, it's my medical. It informs me I must have my medicine. Simplicity. We have made this thing into a very big circus. I go back to certain countries. Go back to India, go back to some other countries. IEBC, you hardly know who they are. They are just there. The secretariat is the one that does the job. Here, the secretariat may be a beautiful secretariat. They're not going to be doing anything. They will, but it is you brought this IEBC sitting on top of the secretariat, doing the secretariat's job. That's what's happening. It started in 2007. It's been going throughout. And I personally think that whoever you bring, I think somebody at one time, one of the senior politicians, some 2-3 years ago, or maybe even more than that, they said you can even bring. I think they were reacting to Oburu. They said bring yourself, bring anybody you want, make yourself the chair. Remember that chair. The result will still be questionable. The independence of IEBC is questionable up to now. It was questionable from the time that it became what is called, was given too much credence, too much publicity. So actually I believe firmly that the current IBC is like the last one. Chebukati and his 3 versus those other 4. Do you understand me? That's going to happen. And even if you go before that, what was his name? The IBC chair.
Isaac Hassan?
Isaac Hassan. Same thing happened. Before him, same thing. So what we are saying, as you said, our Krieger report was never listened to. And then when you now come and ask that you should respect court orders. If the court itself, they say they don't need to pay an advocate or lawyer. You just bribe the judge. That was what was happening.
All right.
You see, so even right now, the credibility and the what is it called? People's trust in the judiciary is questionable. In the parliament is questionable. In the executive is questionable. So these are 3 legs of a stool. The people are questioning everything, right? So what do we do? I have no answer to this particular thing. I wish I had, but I think why can't we just not reinvent the wheel? Mm-hmm. Why can't we go back to certain countries and say what is happening?
Thank you.
What was happening?
Thank you. Allow me just to take a short break. So when we circle back, I think we are wrapping up on the issue of IBC. We want also to look at the bill tracker. The conflict of interest bill is one also important bill when it comes to stamping and stanching the flow of corruption in this country. We'll give you all the details of this bill that was actually returned by the President to the Senate, so that some very critical clauses are looked into. So we'll look into these clauses as well. And this will happen on the other side of a break. Don't go away. You're watching The Insert here on TV 47.